10 years ago, when I was in high school, I fell in love with a guy who was 2 years older than me. We eventually had a child together, and I left my family home to start a new life with him. We were together for 10 happy years until he suddenly passed away. After his death, my child and I moved back to my parents' house, where my sister treated us coldly. However, my sister ended up marrying someone unexpected. This experience made me question whether we can truly defy fate when we meet someone special. Now, at the age of 26, I am a single mother with 2 children, a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. This life-changing encounter happened during my early high school days when I met Jackson, who was a senior at the same school. We fell in love, and he believed it was destiny for us to get married. I felt the same way. Despite being a normal 16-year-old, I felt like the main character in a novel. Jackson was a brilliant student with a future at a prestigious university. He suggested that we get married after I graduated from high school. However, shortly after he proposed, I found out that I was pregnant. It was a memorable winter during Jackson's senior year. Instead of pursuing his studies, he chose to marry me and support our growing family. His parents, especially his father, strongly opposed this decision. His father, Tom, who was a wealthy executive, expressed concern about my young age and plans for high school graduation. He believed that I shouldn't let temporary emotions guide my decisions. Despite his mother's opposition, Tom proposed a discreet solution to handle the situation, suggesting a doctor who could help us quietly without anyone noticing. However, by that point, Jackson and I had already made up our minds. We decided to elope and get married. As a mother now, I can understand his parents' concerns and feelings. If I were in their shoes, I would likely oppose the marriage too. But at that time, we couldn't think of any other option but to raise our child together. I have never regretted that decision to this day. We left a letter for our parents, quietly packed our essentials, and left the house without anyone knowing. We headed far away to New York. It wasn't a departure without a plan. Jackson had sought help from a contact he had known since middle school, who was a developer of a smartphone game app named Mr. Stark. Mr. Stark was surprised to hear about our situation. He had thought we were at least over 20 years old. Nevertheless, he couldn't just leave us alone after knowing the truth. He let us stay in his apartment, which also served as his office, and agreed to be our guarantor for renting an apartment. However, there was one condition. Once things settled down, we had to contact our parents. So Jackson and I sent a postcard to our parents without revealing our current address, with just one line saying, "We're doing fine. Please don't look for us." Meanwhile, Jackson started helping Mr. Stark with game development. It turns out Jackson had been involved in game development for some time, coming up with ideas since middle school and teaching himself programming skills. Mr. Stark was impressed by his talent. I took on the responsibility of cleaning and cooking in our combined office and living space. It was a new challenge for me, but it added color to our daily lives. Mr. Stark expressed his heartfelt gratitude for the home-cooked meals I prepared. It reminded me of the times I helped my mother cook at home and made me feel like those skills were being put to good use. However, it also brought back memories of my parents and sometimes made me feel down. I realized the weight of being married and having a family. We registered our marriage and officially became husband and wife. We didn't have a lavish wedding or a luxurious honeymoon, but we bought a small cake and had a modest but warm celebration. We had a daughter, and we sent a postcard with a happy photo of the 3 of us to both sets of parents. It became a tradition to take a family photo every New Year's and send it to our parents. The job at Mr. Stark's office wasn't high-paying, but it was fulfilling. He had promised me that if the app he was working on became successful, he would give us a proper bonus. True to his word, 2 years later, we received a bonus beyond our expectations. At that time, I was pregnant with our second child, and the joy was immeasurable. Our family grew to 4 with the arrival of our son. Our days were busy but filled with happiness. Perhaps the reason we were drawn to each other was because of the chance to meet these wonderful children. Jackson deeply loved our 2 children, and our days were filled with immeasurable happiness. However, about 10 years after leaving home, in the spring, a sudden event occurred. Jackson suddenly collapsed. He was 27 years old, I was 25, our daughter Susie was 8, and our son Jack was 6. He was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, a serious illness. In his hospital bed, Jackson began to speak quietly, expressing his deep apologies for keeping a secret from me for a long time. I discovered that Jackson had received a bone marrow transplant from his brother before entering high school, despite knowing the risk of relapse. But even if I had known this fact, I would have still chosen to marry him without a doubt. Contact was made with Jackson's parents and brother, and they hurried to the hospital. In the hospital room, surrounded by family, Jackson expressed his deep gratitude and apologies to his parents and brother. He thanked them for their support and for being a donor. With tears in Karen's eyes, she mentioned how the postcards we sent always looked so happy, and she felt relieved seeing them. Jackson then left his final words for his family. He thanked me for everything and asked me to take good care of our children, Susie and Jack. It was a heartbreaking moment, but also one filled with disposition. For the sake of our children and Jackson, I vowed to become stronger. I made a new resolve to raise our children well. Afterward, we held a small but warm funeral, inviting only Jackson's parents, brother, and some colleagues from New York. Jackson's parents offered for us to live with them, but I had already made my decision. I planned to return to my parents' home. I had caused them so much worry over these 10 years, and now I wanted to start living there. My in-laws showed understanding and assured me that if I ever needed anything, I could reach out to them. Tom, on the other hand, suggested that instead of Jackson, he would like to help support the upbringing of our children. It was a generous offer, and I appreciated his willingness to be there for us during this difficult time. This offer was a big help to me. Even though I was willing to work, I was worried about supporting my 2 kids with just my income, especially since I only finished middle school. I accepted help from my in-laws and promised to visit them with the kids during the school holidays. After that, I went back to my parents' home. I had already told them on the phone, and when we returned after 10 years, they warmly welcomed us. I was truly happy with the sudden joy of having 2 lovely grandchildren. I've been through a lot, and hearing that I did well made me tear up. However, the only one in the family who stayed cold and distant was my sister. She said bluntly, "How dare you come back so shamelessly? After you left, we went through a lot here." My sister, 3 years older than me, had always been beautiful and smart. She used to look down on and tease me when we were younger. When I left home, she was attending a prestigious local university and was affected by rumors about her 16-year-old sister running away. Now, at 29, she had been working at a renowned local company for 7 years and seemed desperate in her search for a marriage. Do you think someone like you, a middle school dropout with 2 kids, can raise them properly? Coming back to your parents' house now is just a nuisance, she harshly stated. She had been using my room since I left and openly expressed displeasure at having to vacate it for me and my children. Her attitude was evident to my kids, who never opened up to her. My elder daughter, Susie, with a strong personality, sometimes made sharp comments to my sister. "Auntie, aren't you going to get married?" Susie often asked her provocative questions. My sister, disliking being called auntie, would show her anger even towards Susie. Susie, always calm, would retort, "But you are an auntie, aren't you? What else should I call you?" My sister would then fall silent. The children had to transfer to a new school, and despite initial apprehensions, they adapted quickly and went to school happily every day. During summer vacations, they spent a few days at Jackson's parents' house, having a great time. Jackson's parents and his brother Kate adored the kids, taking them to various places and buying them things they wanted, which the kids greatly enjoyed. When I visited Jackson's family home, his parents and brother, Kate, would eagerly ask about Jackson's time in the city. I would often lose track of time while sharing memories of Jackson. Unlike Jackson, Kate was a sturdy man, with only their eyebrows looking similar. While Jackson was gentle and kind-hearted, Kate was more active and strong-willed. He was good at making conversation and often brought smiles to our family. His cheerful nature provided great comfort to us who were reminiscing about Jackson. About 3 months after returning home, I received unexpectedly harsh words from my sister. "You come back with 2 kids and no job, just like a parasite. It must be because you only finished middle school," she coldly said to me. My mother, pained by the situation, came to my defense. "Christine has been contributing to the household. Since you started working, you haven't brought a penny home, have you? Can't you be a little more kind to your sister who has lost her beloved husband and is wounded in her heart?" She admonished my sister. Surprised, my sister responded, "Really? How is Christine managing the living expenses without working?" Right after I returned home, Jackson's parents had deposited $5,000 into my account for child support, promising to send the same amount every month. I tried to decline, but Tom spoke kindly, saying, "Money is something you can never have too much of, Christine. Instead of working, we want you to cherish the time with the children for Jackson." Unable to argue with their words, I used $1,500 monthly for family expenses, keeping only the bare minimum of $500 for myself and saving the remaining $3,000 for the children's future. Only my mother knew these specific financial details, and she gently said, "Besides, Christine helps a lot with the housework. She works harder than me in cooking and cleaning." But my sister retorted, "Who cares about that? I'm getting married soon, so I don't care about housework." Her argument was somewhat hard to understand, considering she was about to get married. I thought she should learn some cooking skills. "If you're getting married, maybe you should learn a bit more about cooking. Learning from Mom would be good too." This seemed to infuriate her, and she vehemently countered, "I don't need your concern. I'm attending a cooking class. I don't need to learn the cooking of a poor family." My mother, outraged by her words, said, "Well, sorry for the cooking of a poor family," expressing her anger. My sister's matchmaking efforts were successful, and she happily announced her engagement to a doctor 3 years older than her. When she shared this news, she approached me in a rare good mood, saying, "Hey, Christine, I hate to say this, but I don't want you to come to my wedding or the reception. Everyone around here knows you ran away from home, and I don't want to have to explain your return. You don't need to come to the family meeting either. Being a middle school dropout and a single mother, it's a bit, you know." She said this, which felt like a typical way for her to show off. Both our father and mother were angry at her comment, but my sister, having secured her marriage to a doctor, was brimming with confidence. "I do want Dad and Mom to attend the ceremony, but as I'm becoming part of his family, I don't care what others think," she declared defiantly. It seemed only a matter of time before a family conflict would arise. I tried to intervene. "Dad, Mom, don't worry about me. Please, no family fights." But my sister responded coldly, "What a goody two-shoes you're pretending to be." She snapped and went back to her room. At that moment, Susie commented quietly, "Auntie has a bad personality." Both father and mother just sighed deeply. About a year after I returned home, my sister got married, and I was somewhat relieved that she would be leaving the house. 10 days after her wedding, she suddenly called me. "I just got back from my honeymoon, and I'm bringing you some souvenirs." I wasn't going to, but my husband insisted. I was surprised and asked, "But I thought I wasn't supposed to be part of your wedding or reception." To which she replied, "I accidentally slipped up during the honeymoon. I thought it would be difficult to keep it hidden forever, and now that I'm married, it's fine." She had embellished her situation to make a good impression on her husband before the marriage. That day, our entire family was prepared to welcome my sister and her husband. The doorbell rang, and when Mom opened the door, there stood my sister and her newly husband. However, the moment I saw her husband Ace's face, I couldn't help but feel uncertain. I exclaimed aloud in surprise. My sister, a bit shocked by my reaction, said, "What's with the sudden outburst?" Don't speak so familiarly to my husband. This is my husband, Kate. This is the first time you guys have met. Oh, don't mind her. She's just a sister who can only bear kids, she said, laughing. These words made my mother's face fall, and my father sighed quietly. Everyone in the family was puzzled by my sister's insensitive remark. But Kate, ignoring my sister, looked at me intently and said, "Ah, so you are Christine," he murmured. The man in front of me was none other than Jackson's brother. "What did you just say?" Kate asked my sister in a low voice. Unable to hide her irritation, my sister retorted, "Ah, she's so stupid and presumptuous. Christine, go back to your room before your stupidity rubs off on us." But Kate spoke calmly. "Christine won't be doing that. Apologize." I could see his clenched hands trembling. To that extent did he say, "Christine would apologize right now." Kate firmly said, "The one who should apologize is you." My sister was confused, and Kate continued in a stern tone, "Apologize. This woman is my brother's wife." My sister, still confused, repeated, "What do you mean?" "Your deceased brother's just then," Jack exclaimed, "Uncle." My children had met Kate several times at Jackson's family home and had developed a close relationship with him. They had enjoyed fun times at the places he took them, growing very fond of him. Kate spoke sternly. "You said it yourself, didn't you? About your embarrassing sister who ran away at 16 to have kids. Her husband died early, and that's why she came back home. That man, he was my brother." My sister gasped in shock. "What? I had no idea. Why wasn't Christine at the family meeting? Why wasn't she invited to the wedding or the reception?" He confronted my sister, and she replied confused, "Well, it was difficult to say about having a middle school dropout and a single mother as a sister." I thought to myself that if I had been there at the family meeting, this might not have happened. Kate continued speaking. "Sure, Jackson and your sister may have been reckless, but Jackson spent those 10 years happily before he passed away. That happiness was because of Christine and the children you're insulting, my brother." My sister, with tears in her eyes, apologized in a frightened voice. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I had no idea." Kate continued, "Just now, the way you spoke to your sister, I'm losing confidence in staying with you." My sister desperately tried to make excuses. "Don't say that. I can change. Please don't leave me." She couldn't hide her panic at the thought of losing her newly married husband and a light doctor. But Kate said calmly, "I need some time, Tom, Karen, Christine. I'm truly sorry for this situation. Let's talk again later." Saying this, Kate gently pulled away my sister, who was crying and clinging to him, and left. We, the family, were stunned, unable to find the words to say to my sister. My mother sighed deeply and said, "Her actions have led to this, but this is serious." My sister just kept crying, and I even felt sympathy for her usually strong-willed self. She wasn't completely bad after all. "Christine, I was wrong. Please talk to Kate for me. Please help me," she begged me in a tearful state, different from her usual self. Wanting to help her, I decided to visit Jackson's family home the next day and explain the situation. Jackson's mother, while pouring tea, calmly said, "Our sons and you have a really strange fate, don't they?" I replied with a wry smile. "Kate, don't worry about me. My sister may be strong-willed, selfish, and show off at times, but she's not a bad person at heart. As her sister, I wish for her happiness. Please give her a little more time." After saying that, Kate unexpectedly confessed, "I know I shouldn't be saying this, but one of the reasons I decided to marry your sister was because she reminded me of you, Christine." I was taken aback and exclaimed, "What?" Everyone else was equally surprised. "For the past year, I've been looking forward to you and the kids coming here, but knowing how much you cared for my brother, I decided to give up and chose to marry." I responded, still bewildered, "But I don't think my sister and I are that similar." "No, you are similar in your smile and the tone of your voice. That's what I liked and decided to marry her. But maybe it was a mistake. I should have waited for you to forget Jackson. Kate expressed his regret. I quietly replied, I will never forget Jackson. What he said surprised me. I won't forget Jackson, I stated plainly. Then Kate said seriously, but Christine, you're still young, and the kids are fond of me. I want to make you all happy in place of my brother. I'm sorry, but to the children, Jackson is their only father. I appreciate your kindness as Jackson's brother, but I can't have feelings beyond that. Then Karen intervened. Kate, you're wrong. No matter the circumstances, proposing to the sister of your newlywed wife is beyond common sense. Kate fell silent and nodded his head at her words. Tom added sternly, this boy has always been a bit selfish, failing to consider others' feelings. With that, Kate seemed even more disheartened. I couldn't help but say, Jackson was a truly kind person. He never got angry or spoke ill of others, but seeing you stand up to my sister, I felt relieved. I didn't care about the words towards me, but I couldn't stand the insult to Jackson. I am grateful for what you did. Hearing my words, Kate looked disheartened and muttered, I guess it was no good after all. Karen stated firmly, of course, it's the right thing. If you divorce now, Christine and the children would be treated unfairly. She seemed to be considering my position, and I felt grateful for her words. Tom also provided support. Kate is strong-willed and a bit selfish, so they're well matched, Christine. Just forget about it and let them be happy as a couple. With this, Tom helped diffuse the crisis of my sister's potential divorce. Karen then said with a kind smile, Christine, don't worry. I'll make sure to straighten out your sister's personality. I was a bit surprised by Karen's firm declaration. My sister turned to me and said, thank you, Christine. I'm grateful for everything. I'm sorry for all the trouble. Saying this, she went back to her new home. The sister who once seemed ready to cut ties with our family now frequently visited home, bringing our favorite cakes and treats. My mother-in-law, Karen, looks gentle, but she's very strict. My sister would complain about her days with her in-laws. True to Karen's words, it seemed my sister was working on changing her personality. My mother, a bit coldly, said, a strict Karen is just what she needs. Yet, it seemed my mother was inwardly happy that my sister didn't end up divorcing. My sister and Kate, both strong-willed, occasionally had intense arguments, but somehow managed to get along. Frankly, I hadn't expected my sister to get along smoothly with someone who would suddenly order her to apologize, so they seemed somewhat suited for each other. Later, I received a call from Mr. Stark in the city, saying that Jackson's last vein project was completed. I downloaded it to show my children, Susie and Jack. This is the game your dad made. I showed them the screen. In the game, siblings were the main characters named Manalia and Jackie, modeled after our children. Susie asked in surprise Dad made this. Is this me and Susie? Jack said excitedly, staring at the screen. The game was so moving that I often found myself in tears, unable to progress easily. Upon clearing the game, a message saying thank you appeared on the screen. It was Jackson's last message. I thought to myself, thank you. I was truly happy to have met you. I hope you guys enjoy our video. To watch more interesting stories, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.